If you've ever done a home renovation, you've probably had that thought, what am I actually breathing in right now? Well, today we're going to zero in on one of the usual suspects, spray foam insulation, and find out if it's really the villain of your home's air quality story. Let's jump in.
You've probably heard the horror stories, right? Someone gets spray foam and suddenly there's this weird chemical smell that just lingers. The big fear is that the foam is constantly off-gassing nasty chemicals into your air. And look, it's a totally valid concern, but is it the whole picture?
So we're going to put that fear to the test. We're putting spray foam head-to-head with everyday life. What if I told you that the biggest spikes in your home's air pollution probably have nothing to do with what's in your walls, but everything to do with things we all do almost every single day?
All right, to figure this out, we need to meet the players. We need to look at the chemical suspects coming from each side. First, what's coming out of properly installed spray foam, and then what's getting released by some super common household items and activities.
Now, here's a really crucial point. We are only talking about properly cured spray foam. This is the stuff that's installed by the book, mixed correctly, applied in the right conditions, and, this is key, usually sealed up behind drywall. We're not talking about bad installations here, we're looking at the best-case scenario.
So what's actually coming off this properly cured foam? Well, those really scary-sounding isonatates you hear about during the application, they get almost completely used up when the foam hardens. What's left behind are things like the blowing agents, that's just the gas used to make the bubbles in the foam, and some flame retardants, plus a few other trace chemicals.
And in the other corner, we've got the challengers from everyday life. You know, the solvents that give you that fresh paint smell, the fragrances in your all-purpose cleaner, the formaldehyde coming off new furniture, and even that very distinct new carpet odor. This is the stuff we live with all the time.
Okay, we've met the contenders. Now for the main event. We're going to directly compare the concentration of these chemicals in the air. The measurement we're using is micrograms per cubic meter. Let's see how they really stack up.
First up, the spray foam. Now, this is a pretty conservative calculation, assuming the foam is properly cured but left exposed. We're looking at a level around 580 micrograms per cubic meter. Most of that is from those blowing agents we mentioned, okay? Got that number in your head? 580.
Now, let's see what happens when you use a common household cleaner. Just a single use, even in a room with some ventilation, can spike the chemical concentration to around 6,000 micrograms per cubic meter. Whoa, that's already more than 10 times the level from the exposed spray foam.
But wait, because here comes the real knockout punch. That fresh coat of standard interior latex paint, on the very first day, it can flood a room with a jaw-dropping 55,000 micrograms per cubic meter of VOCs. I mean, we're not even in the same league anymore. The scale is just completely different.
And this chart just says it all, doesn't it? Look at that tiny little bar for spray foam. Now look at the cleaning spray, and then look at the skyscraper that is interior paint. When it comes to a short-term, high-intensity burst of chemicals, painting and cleaning just blow everything else out of the water.
But of course, the size of the spike isn't the whole story. Duration is also super important. The impact from a cleaning spray is huge, but it's short. We're talking minutes to hours. Paint fumes, on the other hand, can hang around for weeks, even months. And some of those other compounds, like the flame retardants from foam or furniture, can be released at very low levels for years.
So knowing all this, what can you actually do about it? How do you take back control of your indoor air? Let's turn all this data into a simple, practical game plan for a healthier home.
Okay, for spray foam, the answer is actually pretty straightforward. Get the installation done right the first time. That means hiring a certified pro who knows what they're doing, making sure the foam gets enough time to fully cure with good ventilation, and, this is the big one, covering it up with drywall. That physical barrier is your absolute best friend.
And for those much bigger culprits, the strategy is all about ventilation and making smarter choices. When you're painting or doing a deep clean, throw those windows wide open. When you're shopping, look for low-voc or unscented products. And a great pro tip, if you get new furniture, let it air out in the garage for a few days before you bring it inside.
So, let's bring it all home. After looking at the numbers and the sources, what is the real story when it comes to the VOCs, the volatile organic compounds in our homes?
You know, the research really says it best. When spray foam is done right, and crucially, it's sealed off from the air you're breathing, it's just not the main driver of your day-to-day air quality. The takeaway here is that our attention, it might be focused on the wrong villain.
The simple truth is, those huge, dramatic shifts in your home's air quality,
The big swings in those VOC levels are almost always driven by those super common activities: painting a bedroom, cleaning the kitchen, or just unwrapping a brand new sofa.
And that really brings us to the final question, the one for you to think about. Now that you know this, when you think about your own habits and your own home, what's the real air quality story playing out inside your walls? The answer might have a lot more to do with your weekend project than what's hiding behind the drywall.